All right, I'd like to call to order the regular board meeting of May 16th, 2022. And again, we'd like to welcome you to the meeting of the Buchanan Community Schools Board of Education. All of our regular meetings have been posted on the district website, in our central office, in each of our buildings, as well as on our web page and the portals there. And our school board members do receive the agenda ahead of time in order to be prepared as they review documents, to answer questions, as well as to ask informed questions and things of that nature. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purposes of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. The Buchanan Community School Boards of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on district matters as indicated during the public comment portion on the agenda. And we do request that each interested party complete and turn in a public comment card to ensure responses can be appropriately addressed. And with that said, we will go into our Pledge of Allegiance, and maybe we'll all stand.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And with that, move on to roll call.
Mr. Lee.
Here.
Ms. Berry.
Here.
Mr. Carlson.
Here.
Ms. Leshier. Dr. Carlin.
Here.
Ms. Ryder. Here. And Dr. Burnett.
Here. Moving on to item D, adoption of the agenda. May we have a motion, please?
I motion the agenda for the board meeting of May 16th, 2022 be adopted as written.
Support.
All right. Roll call.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Ms. Berry.
Yes.
Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin.
Yes.
Ms. Ryder.
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett.
Yes. Moving on to item E, recognition of visitors. And Ms. Robinson, we have visitors?
I do. There are several students in the audience who are going to speak, and I do want to just, if you guys can wave your hands. We have some from the farm board, some from the band, advisory, choir. So we're excited to share those students and their comments today, and we're excited for them to be here along with their parents and families. And we do have some, I think some of the retirees too still here in the audience. So, and then just an extended welcome to all of our community members here.
All right. Thank you. And moving on to points of pride.
And first we have Chloe Singleton. She is part of the Superintendent's Advisory Committee. She is one of our middle school students, and she and another middle schooler, Bella, who is not here, Kruger, who is not here tonight, they spent about 45 minutes with me every month going through some of the some critical areas for our district. I shared with them some survey results. I've shared with them our survey that we sent out regarding the bond. I've shared with them information about whether we want half day, full day, all of the PD schedules. And so they were able to give me some good feedback that I was able to take back. So Chloe just recently shared just a bunch of ideas about the bond, and I wanted her to share that as well with you guys. So I'm going to go down and stand with her. She is a little bit nervous. So I'm going to go down and stand with her while she reads what she wrote. And just also a note, she does want to be an attorney. So just imagine the conversations that we had each month. So.
Good evening. I'm Chloe Singleton, a 7th grader at Buchanan Middle School. I'm here today to discuss Moxon Elementary, the renovation or rebuilding a new school. There are a lot of pros and cons to both sides of this matter, so let's begin. For the renovation at Moccasin, the estimated cost is $15.5 million. With that being said, the school gets $14 million per year. 83% of that money goes to the staff members that work at our schools. So $14 million and the 83% of that deducted off, it would be $2,380,000 left. So our taxpayers would pay more of a cost to make us have enough money to renovate or build. With the renovation, there would still be a lot of green space for children that attend the school to run around and let their energy out and have the same space or close to it as before. The time it would be to renovate it would take to renovate while school is in session could be difficult, but it does not have to be. Students going to Moccasin could go online learning while the main construction was going on. But if we do decide to renovate, and once we begin, we don't know what we could find. For example, there could be a lot more wrong with the plumbing and electricity. That would cost a lot more money and time than what we thought. Renovating the classrooms would be a lot smaller than redoing the entire building as well. But if we built a whole other school, things would be different. Moccasin was built in 1948, 3 years after World War II ended. So there are fallout shelters. A fallout shelter is a building or other structure designed to protect people from a radioactive fallout after a nuclear explosion. Those shelters are still there, as well as the fallout shelter signs. And along with that, in the closet next to the staircase and cafeteria are very historic pictures of the models displayed toward the front of the building. So there are a lot of historical spots throughout the school, from the tunnels underneath the school, an old coal room, and the pictures that are at the front doors of the school, etc. There would also be more space in general throughout the school for kids to be able to move around in. Some plus sides of a new building is that it would be able to be built while school is in session, since it is just being built behind the original school. Also, kids with disabilities would be able to move up to the second floor with elevators. So it would be disability friendly. The money would be estimated around $26.5 million. That is almost double the renovation. The building itself needs work, from open wires, the air conditioning dying, electricity isn't the greatest, and warm air going through the lockers to get to the hallways, and almost every classroom used for 2 uses. I got my information from Superintendent Robinson, and also take a closer look around Moccasin today with Mr. Dunn, the principal at Moccasin Schools. Thank you for your time and listening to my thoughts and ideas about Moccasin School.
Thank you very much. Good job.
If you have any questions, you can ask them.
Great job.
Good job, Chloe.
Good job.
She made some good closing arguments there as well.
Thank you again, Chloe. Wonderful job. So other points of pride that we'd like to share tonight are our Buck staff appreciation. You may want to.
So this month's Buck Staff Appreciation winner is Melissa Prestine, Ottawa and Moccasin Elementary music teacher. And, sorry, I had it open. And we just like to read the comments that are turned in on her behalf. So Melissa Prestine has done an outstanding job teaching elementary music at Moccasin in Ottawa. She has a strong background in music, and you could tell she loves to share what she knows with the students. She is always smiling, upbeat, and a team player. Her knowledge of PBIS helps our little Bucks learn and practice the building expectations in a positive way. She does checkouts with several students before dismissal and is always willing to help in whatever way she can. She worked with our students to sing songs at our Arbor Day ceremony and is working with kindergarten for an end-of-the-year singing program. We are fortunate to have Melissa as a Buck. So on behalf of the Buchanan Board of Education and administration of the Buchanan Community Schools, we thank you for your service and encourage you to keep up the great level of achievement and service to our district. And then I do like to read we'll be able to clap for her, don't worry. All right. And the nominees for the May Buck Staff Appreciation: Amanda Horton, Buchanan High School Food Service; BJ Scott, Ottawa Food Service and Transportation Assistant; Carrie Chase, Great Start Readiness Program Teacher; Catherine Loma, Moccasin Administrative Assistant; Margaret Cowles, Buchanan High School Food Service; Melissa Frost, Buchanan High School Science Teacher; Melissa Sweeney, Buchanan High School Food Service; Missy Lyons, Buchanan Middle School Special Education Teacher; Rebecca Marshke, Moccasin 4th Grade Teacher; Ryan Franzak, Buchanan Middle School Dean of Students; and Shelby Beasley, Buchanan Middle School Principal. We wish Melissa Prestine congratulations on all of the nominations for the May Buck Staff Appreciation.
You can come on up, and Dr. Harvey Barnett is going to present to you your certificate as well as take a picture. Thank you.
Again, congratulations there, Melissa, and all of our nominees. And we move on to Superintendent Department reports.
We skipped the Hall of Fame
Oh.
winners.
I couldn't even see that.
Okay.
Okay,
Those
never mind.
glasses.
Go ahead.
So last month, I think it was April 23rd, we did have our annual chamber, annual awards dinners. And we were able to celebrate 3 of our Hall of Fame winners at this event. And so we do want to recognize them again tonight, just by stating their names and saying what they did win for. First, we have performance in school-related activities. Mr. David Shoemake was the winner in that area. Contributions to society, Mr. Eddie L. Miller. And then contributions to Buchanan Community Schools was Mrs. Sharon Gregorski. They all showed up to the event and were able to receive their special awards from the district. So we recognize their talents and contributions.
Let's give them a round of applause.
The last one is our student shadow. I do not see her here. Emma Woodbury. She spent a day with me on April 20th. So from about 7:30 till the end of the day, till the time the buses came, she was able, and that's another middle school student, so I want to really pump up our middle schoolers who are reaching out and crossing over and stepping up into places and spaces of being, kind of being leaders. So Emma spent the day with me. She participated in a training with all of the district leadership at that time. She also spent the day, she attended a meeting with me, was able to give me some feedback as well. We spent lunch together, and then at the end, she wrote an essay as well, outlining her day. This was an extra credit assignment that was given to her by one of her teachers, and she rose up to the cause and was able to do it. So I appreciate her time that she spent with me.
All right, let's
Thank
give
you.
her a round of applause for that. All right. Now we can move on to department reports, superintendent reports.
Okay, so the department reports are in your board packets. You receive those each month, and from each school and each department. And before I conclude this section, I do have just a small statement that I'd like to read. On April 13th, Buchanan Community Schools released a survey to the community for the purpose of gaining input regarding addressing needs at Moccasin Elementary School and Buchanan High School. Working with our postal service, listserv groups, we worked diligently to include all addresses that fell under Buchanan Community Schools. Our efforts came with errors, and we apologize, but the error was not intentional. Over 4,900 surveys were mailed by a third party. when the Gillene community members called to make us aware of the situation, we extended the options of mailing surveys, having someone pick up a survey, giving them the option to receive a unique code to complete the survey online, and our finance manager even hand-delivered copies. In addition, many Gillene residents have asked why Gillene residents are confronted to consider a much higher cost than what they were paying. We do want you to just be aware if your property tax form shows 2013 debt and 2014 building and site, then you should refer to the top line outlined in the survey. We wholeheartedly apologize for this confusion and will continue to work with you individually as groups to provide additional information. All you have to do is just reach out to our central office, call us, we will make appointments with you, we will call you back, we will even come to your home to try to explain things to you. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now moving on to presentations.
Yes, we have our special presentation tonight. We have a lot of presentations tonight. Our first one is our high school highlight, Mrs. Stacy DeMeo. Please come up. And I know she has others who are presenting with her, so she will work that out.
Thank you. Good evening. I was expecting to go second, so I was like, oh, it's my turn. Sorry. So you can see the slides up on the screen over there. Just wanted to give you a little highlight of what happened this year, what we've been working on, and start with some points of pride. So let's see if I can get this to work. Yep, there we go. So we have some excellent student points of pride this year. We have many art awards. Mrs. Miller is an amazing art teacher, and we've got some great art students who have earned scholarships this year based on their art, and I know I've showcased some of them and have mentioned them in my monthly award or monthly newsletters. Our band festival our band has been amazing. They've done great jobs, all ones, all the time. I think this is their 7th year in a row, I want to say. NHS induction in our academic letters, we celebrated those super smart kiddos who are super dedicated to their academics, so we wanted to do a little shout out for them. Our Science Olympiad team, awesome job. Mr. Carlson, I think you know that. They did a great job, and they even went to state. So they did a wonderful job there. Our esports team, again, doing great things this year, top of the county. Return to the Battle of the Fans, top 3, that's amazing. Talent show, first time we've had in a long time, which was a great success. We brought back drama this year, so we had our student production. And then choir was also added this year, so we've had a lot of great things going on this year. It takes a lot of effort on the part of the staff, but they've been doing such a great job, and the students are doing wonderful, wonderful things with the mentorship of our teachers. So I want to thank them. We also have some great teacher points of pride. We had a couple grant winners this year. Mrs. Neal and Mrs. Morey both received ACORN grants, and they fund some classroom reading supplies. We also have a lot of staff learning this year, and we've gotten a lot of great learning under our belt with our PD. And then Mr. Phillips this year was recognized for the national recognition for Walsworth Possibilities book, and it's something that they take the best of their company, and they showcase them in this book. So his yearbook staff and he are doing a great job as well. We still have a few events left to go to end our year. Baccalaureate, honors convocation, and graduation, the main 3 that everybody's looking forward to. We can't wait to get that out of the way. Seniors as well. And then I just wanted to do a quick update on what are some of our goals and initiatives that we started, or not, that we've accepted this year. First of all being initiatives with our scheduling. Scheduling at the high school is always a hot button issue, and everybody wants to know what's going on and how we do it. So one of our goals this year was to just let it be known. This is our process, this is how we do it, this is what we look for. These are some of our scheduling roadblocks. So in order to do this transparency initiative, I have taken a little blurb in every principal's update to just update everybody. This is what we're doing this month. These are the things we're looking at. Your kids should be scheduling this. Your kids will be getting this in the mail or in their emails. They'll be getting visits from their counselors. So we just kind of did a little update of this is what's going on in our process and this is how we're doing it. We met with a parent advisory group to discuss some of their concerns and explain some of the roadblocks and pitfalls of a small school scheduling. And then we've created a timeline, and we've exceeded that timeline so far, just a counselor and myself. So we're doing really good, since we're still down a counselor, but we hope to change that for next year. We've got great plans, but our scheduling is on time, and kids will have schedules before we leave for summer this year, so we're excited about that. Another initiative that we've been working on this year is standards-based learning and assessment. And this is what's taken up a lot of our time and efforts. And it's been a rough road, but it's great learning. It's a great process. And I just want to, let me go. Here we go. Call your attention to the very center, essential standards. So those are standards. This is the impetus for everything that we do in education in general. This is what we talk about. This is our main focus. These standards are what we live by. And I call them, they're the heart of what we do. And basically, Michigan has so many standards, the core standards. There is no possible way to teach all standards to all students in 1 year. There's just no possible way to do that. So what we do is we look at our SAT data and we figure out what are the most important standards that our kids need to know. Based on that data, based on teacher discretion, like what is it that we have to have our kids know before they move on to the next year? And those have become our essential standards. So we take a look at those, and that is everything that we talk about, everything that we do is based on those essential standards, okay? So everything that we do, those standards are at the heart of what we talk about. So when we talk about all the things that we do when we talk about our standards, this is basically teaching in a nutshell. This is everything that we have to do. We have to talk about our curriculum, we have to look at the assessments, our grading, our PLC data, and our interventions and enrichments. That's pretty much everything. But the next part of the essential standards is looking at our curriculum and how do we make it guaranteed and viable. And basically what that means is that every student gets the same education as far as standards are concerned. There's no apples to oranges. It's apples to apples to apples to apples. Everybody's getting the same thing. Okay? They each get it a different way based on their needs, but they're all getting the same thing. So that it doesn't matter what teacher you have. Your teacher is going to be teaching the same thing that other teacher is going to be teaching at the same time at the same coursework. So that's what we talk about with guaranteed and viable curriculum. So what we do is we collaborate in their departments, and they strategically pick those essential standards, the curriculum materials, teaching methods, instructional strategies, all that kind of stuff. And they work with, this year, well, many years actually, but they've worked with content-specific experts along the way. ELA teachers have been meeting with Chris Martin from RISA for the last 2 years. Our math teachers have been meeting with Joel Shecky for the last 2 years. Our social studies teacher brought in somebody, Rebecca Bush from Ottawa ISD, and then science will be working with somebody next year. So they've all got content-specific experts along the way. So then the next part of teaching, is assessments. And with assessments, we need to know, are we using common assessments? Are we using our formative assessments? And are we using our summative assessments? So those are the three things that we really have to look for when we're looking at how do we know our kids are understanding and showing mastery of the standards that we're assessing. So we are going to be working in teams, in department teams, and we're going to be looking at these essential questions. Are we assessing what we need to assess based on those standards? Are we using the right assessment tools? Are we using common assessments? Are we using formative assessments to inform our teaching along the way? Or are we just giving summative assessments and doing autopsy assessments instead of helping to improve instruction or improve understanding along the way? And then are we assessing using our agreed upon scales of proficiency? Do we know our kids know what they say they know? And we're going to have more focused learning on that aspect next year. Which brings us to grading. And grading for teachers is a hot button topic because it's very, very personal for a teacher. It's what they do. And grading practices are really hard to implement change. So we've been working on this for about 3 years now. We started this in 2019, And we read a book called Grading from the Inside Out. We did a little book study, and they ended up calling it True North Grading. And basically what that is we believe at the high school that all grades should accurately reflect student learning of the standards that we are teaching. Makes sense, right? If we focus on the standards, then we need to assess on the standards. So with the help of Tom Schimmer this year, he has been helping us fine-tune our guidelines and our practices. And we have come up with 5 basic principles to help us with our grading. There we go. We've eliminated extra credit. We will not use points as merchandise that can be bought, bartered, or what families can afford to bring in. We don't give extra credit for Kleenex or candy or anything else like that. It is not about what you bring in, but about what you know and understand. So we do not do extra credit. Our next principle is late work. We understand that some students need more time to complete assignments and to demonstrate their proficiency because not everyone learns at the same time frame. So as long as students are using their time in class and showing their effort, late work will not be punished. Students may turn in work at any time as long as the learning is still relevant. And this is the catcher that we're kind of like tweaking. What really works? Because we don't want procrastinators either. So we just kind of got to fine tune what that line is. Next year, we're going to implement a final cutoff date at the quarter mark to help that procrastination. But it's a learning process, and we're learning. So we're giving it our best efforts, and we're going to keep trying to help our kids. Another principle is practice is practice. Let's see if I can put that over. We accurately assess students based on their proficiency and not on their practice of skills. So we believe that grades should reflect the most recent evidence of learning, not an average of the learning progression over time. And the athletic analogy works really well here. Teams are not given rankings based on their practice, right? They're practicing to learn skills, to get better. So that's the same thing with assessments and with homework. Homework is practice, so we want to make sure that kids are doing what they need to do, learning what they need to learn in their practice, and then we assess based on that practice, based on the mastery of the standards. And then, finally, behaviors are not included in standards. Grades will reflect the learning of the standards and not an accumulation of points. We really want to shift our focus from accumulating points and points and points and points to learning. So using proficiency scales that teachers created this year, they will only assess and report students' learning of standards, not their effort, not their neatness, or compliance. We're going to take the behaviors out of their grades and assess them on the standards. So we hope to see a culture shift from getting the points to improving on the standards. And that's really on us as adults in the building. We have to start talking that culture shift so that the kids start picking that up. And that is going to take time. And then improvement of learning. Students will always be able to show an improvement of learning by a reassessment or a revision of feedback from the teacher. However, students must show additional learning to take advantage of this opportunity to prove that their understanding and application of the standard has improved. So what we want to do is, if you make a mistake, great. What did you do? How do you fix it? Go back and learn. Do I need to reteach this? Do you need to do the homework you didn't do the first time to help you with that? That's practice. What practice do you need? So we're always looking at how can we improve the learning and not necessarily the points. We really want to take away that shift of points. And then the next section, dealing with our essential standards, is the PLC data dialogues. And really, this is just conversation about student learning. We have had great PLC coaches this year, Matt Townsley and Nathan Weir from Solution Tree. They came and gave us some pointers on how to put the pieces of the puzzle together. We haven't really done a lot of depth into this data dig yet because we were so busy focusing on all those other pieces that this is going to be a focus later on next year, that we're going to start getting those conversation templates down. We're going to talk about the data. We're going to bring the data in. And it's a really difficult thing for a staff of Singletons to do because everybody wants to talk about, well, I don't teach that. Why do I care? So we have to really spin our focus to this is our department. These are our kids, and what are we going to do to help each other to improve? And our staff has decided that, yes, they want to do this. They want to do this, and they're committed to doing this as Singletons because they really feel that they are connected to students better if every single teacher knows the student, like they've had them from 8th grade to 12th grade, every teacher. And when you split them up, they don't necessarily, I don't know that kid. I didn't have that kid before. So it's a really great way to build connectedness within the building. So we're going to talk about that a lot next year. We're going to start using those in our conversations in our PLC time together. And then finally, the last section of our essential standards is those interventions and enrichments. And we have a lot of interventions at this building, and there's a whole list of them there. But I'm going to have Mrs. Southwell come up and talk to you about those in a little bit. And then we also have some enrichment opportunities, and we will be the first to say we don't really do enrichment as well as we would like to. So we are really going to focus on how do we get those, not just AP or honors level courses, how do we do that in the moment, in the class period? How do we work that out so that we're providing kids those enrichment opportunities in the classroom that they're in? So that's something that we're going to work on. You're PLC people, and they'll be the first to tell you that that's the hardest part to do, is figuring out how to make them go further. The interventions are they're not easy, but they're easier to come up with. It's those enrichment things that are really hard to do. So that's what we're going to focus on, again, for next year. And then just some final thoughts. It's important to understand that school does, and it should look differently than when you and I were in school. It's important to know that when you know better, you do better. So we have to remember that, okay, this isn't what I did. This isn't how I was taught. This isn't how I taught 10 years ago. It's a little different, and it's a shift that we have to make. We're always accepting of new ideas, and even for educators, new ideas takes time. Change never is easy, and that's something that we all have to work on. And our biggest hurdle this far is just fitting our current paradigm shift into our current system of supports. So how do we make this grade look accurate in the grade book using PowerSchool? So those are kind of things that we're struggling with, and we're trying to find some solutions to. So as they say, we're constantly building that proverbial plane in flight, and we do that well. For future implementation, we're going to work with a partner school as we discuss and learn from each other in the process of standards-based education. We have one of our solution tree people put us in contact with a partner school in Kansas. So we're going to start partnering with them, and like, this is the issue I'm having. How did you fix that? We're having the same issue. And we're just going to get our teachers together, and we've already had conversations, and just share a lot of what we're doing and what we're experiencing. We're going to start gathering some parent input as we determine what grades and report cards look like, if they change at all, and include them in some of our meeting discussions. Continue to communicate our process in the principal's update. You've noticed that I've had some of those things in those updates every month. Create and present an implementation timeline of how we're going to get to our end goal and when is that end goal. And then provide staff the relevant PD opportunities they need for assessments to continue to provide support in the standards work that we're doing. So, well, like I said, we have a lot of intervention initiatives at the high school, so I'm going to pull Donna Southwell up. She is our academic interventionist, and she's going to talk to you about what we're doing at the high school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, these are part of my and which way?
To the right. To the right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had to get instructions. It's been a while since I've done a presentation. Again, I'm Donna Southwell. I'm the interventionist here at the school. This is really, I think, my 5th or 6th year at being here. And the changes I've seen have been incredible. Every single year, trying to learn from what we did before, trying to keep the things that worked, trying to figure out why they worked, what didn't work, having conversations with kids and teachers and staff, and just being a part of everything that's going on here. The first real intervention, I think, that started out was after-school academics, and that is now from 1 hour every Monday through Thursday. It is in room 200, which is the room that we've created for intervention. And this is a room that, if you want to come and visit, I think you'd really enjoy it. It is very peaceful in there, purposefully. The chaos is at a minimum, the noise is at a minimum. We do a lot of one-on-one or very small group assistance. There's places for one or two students to work together. We try not to do more than that because it is a quiet place. One of the biggest rules is you are not allowed to distract other students. And so it means that any child from any student from any of our grades can come in and find a place and a way that they can work. The way you get to after-school academics can be parents. Parents call and say, hey, I want my kid to stay after until they're passing everything. Teachers who are saying, okay, this student's going to need a little extra work. We have a math, Mr. Pearson, who is our math teacher, one of our math teachers, is also engaged, and he is part of that coaching, mentoring that we do, particularly in math. And then staff also can say, hey, this kid really does need some support. So we can get recommendations for any way. One of the things that I think I've seen that has been a trend that makes me feel pretty darn good about what we've been doing is the fact that kids are coming in now without needing anybody telling them to. Miss Southwell, is it okay if I stay after tonight? Sure, go ahead. What are you going to be working on? And I think that at this point, we have more students who are in there voluntarily than students who are being remanded or said, you know, that you have to stay. They like that quiet place. A lot of students are asking if they can just come in after can I come in here during, well, if the teacher says it's okay, and this is during the day, then you can after instruction. So there's a lot of activity. I think this is a room that really gets utilized a lot. Excuse me. Did I break it? Oh, did I? Oh, did I go too far? There we go. Sorry about that. So some of the interventions that we've tried this year that have been innovative, and one of the things that I've never seen in a high school before, so it's like a whole different way of doing lunch detention. We gave it a real good name too, Catch-Up Solutions. This was something that Stacy initiated at the beginning of this year. It took us a while to get it rolling, and before we could get a system about how this really was going to work. And in the beginning, it took a lot of staff time. But we worked with Mr. Place from IT, and Phil was able to show us shortcuts and methods that really cut our time down. It was wonderful. So we would run our database every Tuesday and find out how many students had missing assignments. Everything, I mean, from one assignment all the way to 80 assignments. We have some really high flyers once in a while. So I would work through this data, and we would issue invitations to our luncheon every Friday. And on Fridays, then the students would have over the weekend and Monday to get any missing work assignments that they needed to get done. And so they had those extra days, and on Tuesday through Friday, we had catch-up solutions. And in order to get out of there, what you had to do is you had to show me that you had your work completed. And we ran into a lot of things that needed to have some adjustments. One of my favorites was that that if you had all C's, even if you were missing assignments, then we didn't want to punish you. So that was one of the ways that you could get out of catch-up solutions. So how many students started on Tuesday were a lot more than the students we had by Friday, because they'd come and show me their work. Well, I gave my work to the teacher. That was one of the best excuses I heard on a daily basis. So we invented a note, and the student would have to put their name on that note and write, Casey has gotten all of their missing assignments turned in, and then have all their teachers initial it. If the teachers did that, they were excused from catch-up solutions until we could run the database again, and they appreciated it. Another one of our adjustments, we found out, and you have a sort of a data sheet that I put together for you, and I'll be explaining some of this as we go along, and why it's a little difficult to measure right at this point all of the successes that we've had. So one of the adjustments is that junior and seniors were really hard to keep a hold of. Those students get to leave the building with parent permission during lunch, and so staff were chasing around trying to find where these kids, we decided chasing them in the parking lot was not going to be productive. And that Mr. Pruitt wins too many contests for number of steps taken during the day and didn't need to be doing this. So we pulled the juniors and seniors out of catch-up solutions, but we created another solution for them. And that was if they had the highest numbers of missing assignments. And in room 200, we have room for about 21 students, and that's all. So if they had, and we start with the seniors because they were the most important, missing assignments and Fs in core classes, that got them an invitation every day into room 200 until they had remedied that and raised their grades and or missing assignments. That seemed to be one of the things that really made a big difference in our adjustments. Learning that different teachers had different rules for missing assignments was also really important. It was like, why can we have this many missing assignments and still have this high grade? And that's what left us in an adjustment for catch-up solutions. So that was one of our innovations this year. And I do have some information on that I'll explain in just a few minutes. I did that one. I just want to make sure I'm following all of these in order. So, about the middle of second semester, now first semester was a very fast semester for us this year. So taking all of that information, putting it together, when we started second semester, it became evident that, and if you look at this, you'll also see some very large numbers, like in numbers of Fs. I want you to know that is not the number of students with Fs. Those are the total number of Fs for all of our students together. So this also doesn't even say where we are on the scale. What's also important and doesn't show up here, and that's the kind of thing that we have to figure out how we're going to meld this together, is the fact that we've got students that have started out before interventions with grades as low as 12%, and some even lower. And so this isn't marking the progression of, oh, now it's into 30s, now it's into 50s. You know, we're not quite there yet, but you can see towards the end of the year, towards the end of that semester, we get closer and closer. So one of the things that we instituted, and I talked about 11th and 12th grade ICE, was also, just a second. There we go, parent meetings. This is something that we started in January, at the very end of January during second semester. It started out with just a few students. We were very high-risk students who were failing, who were not being successful in their education. So we tried something new and different. We started having parent meetings with the student involved, with Mr. Flowers, with me, with Mr. Pruitt, whoever was available at that time or had interaction with this student. And we looked at this as a very positive planning meeting. So what that means is we went in there with a positive plan intent. It was not, your kid's in trouble and we really need you to get over here. It was more like, let's figure out a plan together that we can all agree on. And especially the student, their participation and their agreement that this is what they would like to do made that their plan. Then every 2 weeks we had follow-up meetings to see if our plan was working. And then they would return to no parent meetings if they were successful. So I'm really happy to tell you that we have 3 more parent meetings this month, towards the end of the month, just to see how we've done. But during the months of March, February, March, and April, we had at least 26 parent meetings a month. And it made a difference to have the parents engaged, to have the student be making their own planning. A couple of the things that we discovered that I really want to share is that these are the kids that aren't necessarily succeeding in the traditional way. And what did we need to do? This is probably about 20% of our students that have about 80% of Fs. Many of these students have 3 Fs, 4 Fs, 5 Fs. And what could we do to make this different? So there have been many interventions that we've tried, but one of the most successful is helping these kids find some confidence. Once they said, yes, this is what I agree to, yes, this is what I can do. I can come after school for 2 nights a week. I can just focus really on this one class right now and try to keep current, but I'm going to really focus on this. Once they started having success, that success began to grow and grow and grow. So that leads us to the data that I shared with you. Again, first and second semester, this is the Fs, and why you see this beginning in November 9th is because that's when we were doing F and D reports together, and when a lot of stuff that we were doing was by hand. Then it became much more efficient with resources. We got much better at keeping this data together. So again, Fs, these are the total number of students broken down by class. Total number of Fs broken down by class. The catch-up solutions became 10 or more missing assignments. You can see where we removed the juniors. We had fewer kids in catch-up assignments, but they were really the kids that we needed to focus on. So then we added to that the parent meetings, and if you look over here, you're going to find that our seniors were really struggling this year. There are first students who have been in this school for the whole year after all of the COVID. They were a part of every bit of that. And they have struggled and struggled, but they found ways, and they're resilient, and they found ways to succeed. So if you start looking now, we went from a high of 97 Fs in the 12th grade to today, or yes, this is for tomorrow, I ran it late this afternoon, we have 12 Fs. That's all there is now in the senior class. Those kids have really, really worked at that. 8th graders, again, struggled. This was difficult. They not only transitioned from middle school, but they transitioned from COVID in the middle school into having to become a full-time student. And that has been a struggle as well, but the interventions show that the things that we've been doing with these kids, working in math lab, working in reading lab, having seminar, having individual attention, having plans that are structured for you specifically, have really made a difference in where we're seeing our students right now. I'm noticing a couple of trends, and that's what we really get from this information I've given you, trying to identify what are the trends. When did the interventions happen? Sometimes incidents just like Thanksgiving break, spring break. You can see how it really does impact students coming back and trying to get back on track. So, trends are what we're going to look for. I want to tell you about the letters to the seniors. So, when we had 49 seniors that were failing, letters went out to every one of the parents saying, hey, this is what's going on for your kid. There's 2 classes that are absolute necessary for your child's graduation. And it took us about 2 weeks, but that's when we began to see those numbers fall for those students. Now we know that was a very positive intervention. Testing also lifted us back up a little bit, but what the trend has been in these last couple of weeks has been students that are just really finally finding their feet, finding the routine is working for them, and they are back succeeding again. They are getting the work done. They are interested in having their work done. So these are the kind of things that we are doing with intervention. And if you have any questions, I'd love to answer. Any comments?
No, you did a great job.
Okay, well,
Lots of information.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Mrs. Southwell and Mrs. DeMayo, for all of that information. Next, we have our special presentation from Mrs. Frost and her team of students regarding Plow Day.
Let's see. So we had our 50th anniversary Plow Day. It was a huge success. We had all the COVID years, and I think the year before the COVID, we didn't even have it because it snowed. So it was a great opportunity. We had a beautiful day, and this is just a small sampling of students that were out that day helping with all kinds of activities that were planned. I think overall there were 19 high school students that went, and they volunteered throughout the course of the day, from pancake breakfast to the woodwork with Mr. Davison, and just whatever we needed done, the high school kids were there to do it. So they volunteered to come out tonight to read the slides as we go through, and you'll get to see some familiar faces in the pictures, and then you'll see some high school students, some elementary kids. And it was just a great day, and we really enjoyed it, so. Ivy, did I steal your slide?
So I'm going to speak about the highlights. In the first picture, you can see us planting the pear tree, which was a very big involvement, and it brought much joy to the community. And as we can see in the next photo, there's the Sugar Shack dedication, and we're just honoring the Sugar Shack for how long it's been there, from 1987 to 2002, which is really exciting.
And Mr. Nixon.
And Mr. Nixon.
And Mr. Nixon.
Okay, so, sorry. So, I'm gonna talk about the pictures. Sorry, okay. So in the first picture, there's a cow and her calf, and the little kids got to look at all the farm animals. There were like ducks and chickens and the cows and sheep, so they got to like see all the farm animals. In the second picture, we got to make like woodworks, wood crafts, bird houses, and like little ornaments, and then someone engraved them. And then the third picture below, the tractor started to plow the field, and then the last picture was the pancake breakfast, which was really good. So yeah.
Next is the special thanks. Special thanks to our exhibitors, the Buchanan Scarecrow Charities, quilting display by local quilters, Buchanan District Library, Megahertz 5056, Meet Some Barnyard Friends, Fishing Tackle with Al Whitfield. Berrien County Conservation District with Lisa Kuntz, Scott Marsh Homemade Ice Cream, for St. Joe, our archaeology WWU students, Fernwood interactive display by Fernwood staff. Sorry, couldn't read it all.
You're fine.
And a special thanks to our local business partners, Country Heritage Credit Union, Honor Credit Union, Valdi Sales and Services, Davidson Sawmill, and Master Farms.
Without Davidson Sawmill, none of the crafts would have happened. So he has all the woodwork, he makes sure all the kits are ready to go. So yeah, without Ben, the kids wouldn't have had nearly the amount of fun that they did. Oh, yeah, I will do this. So obviously we had quite a few student helpers from the high school all the way from 8th grade to 12th grade. And so it was a great opportunity. It was so much fun to see the high school students helping the little kids. I really called it a multi-generational event. Like, you had babies all the way up to people that weren't babies, and so, and everything in between. So we had a great day. We had beautiful weather, and we look forward to another year next year. And the farm board members, does that mean?
So, we just want to say thank you to the farm board members, Jane Mitchell, school farm coordinator, Ira and Marie Fox, school farm caretakers, Melissa Frost, the president, Al Whitfield, the vice president, Kelly
Lesh.
secretary, Jeff Bailey, trustee, Jerry Cuthbert, trustee, Ben Davidson, trustee, Mark Nixon, trustee.
I want to say a special thanks to our district administrative team. We have Superintendent of Schools Patricia Robinson, Assistant Superintendent of Schools Mark Kurland, High School Principal Stacy DeMaio, Assistant High School Principal Brian Pruitt, Middle School Principal Shelby Besley, Moccasin Elementary Principal Dr. Michael Dunn, and our Ottawa Elementary Principal Stacy Denson.
Special thanks to our Board of Education, Dr. Harvey Burnett, President, Ruth Reiter, Vice President, Kelly
Lesh.
Secretary, Chris Lee, Treasurer, Katie Berry, okay, Treasurer, Chris Carlson, Trustee, and Dr. Scott Carlin, Trustee.
And we thank the board for their continued support of the farm. We're only one of 5 schools in the whole state that have a farm. And so it's quite a special thing to have, and we just hope that we can continue to grow it and honor our traditions and move forward also. Thank you, guys.
Good job.
So just so everybody's aware, since we're on the school farm, the students that were helping with the branding made the ornaments. And then we are getting ready for pumpkins. So This week. So, yep, so Jane gave us some pumpkin seeds, so, and I'm sure she'll ask if we want to help, so. Yes. Anyways, the ornament brands turned out really neat, and they were fun. Scared me half to death for liability, but we kept them safe, so.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we now have another student presentation as we talk about the middle school and high school music department. I want to invite Julie Hoyt to the podium for her to have some words. Think her dad is going to come with her? No, he's not. Okay, all right. So we know she had a lot of good words to say about the department. We do have a presentation, right, too, from Mrs. Russell regarding the event that happened on Friday. So, Julie, you're sure? I know you prepared something. Mom, Dad, do you? Okay, all right. All right, we're ready for the presentation. You can, yes. Please, yes, because you would have. Okay. Thank you so much.
So, as Dr. Robinson mentioned, this past Friday was our second annual band collage concert. Actually, it was the music department collage concert. So, we had all of the students in the music program, grades 6 through 12, that performed in the competition gym. We borrow things from several districts, several things, cover the gym floor, so it's all black for a nice concert. We hire a local vendor to provide all the lighting and the sound for that event. It was really well received pre-COVID, and so we wanted to bring it back, obviously post-COVID. And so it was really nice because it creates vignettes for each of those bands to be highlighted, but it meshes them all together. So one of the things that Mrs. Russell talked about was that there's no interruption in between. We go right from the 6th grade band to a high school piece to a choral piece. And so it's a really, really nice, I think it was about a 45-minute concert. From what I could tell, the gym was pretty full. The bleachers are pulled out. We do charge for the concert, which I know there was some people that were a little dismayed by that, but there is a large cost associated with putting on a production like this. So we think it's warranted. It's a great way to highlight our students. Like I said, it was both band and choral. Had everything from, I don't know, the creepy crawlies where you guys spun the wind instrument things, to, I know that there were a couple, there was even a community choral piece that I think Mrs. McKean sang in. And so, and then the marching band even marched in at the end with their marching instruments and flags and things like that. So I think it was a really, really nice way to highlight everything that our Buchanan program is doing musically, and in hopes that we can get more students involved and excited about music and how it can be involved in their academics I almost said the university, in the community.
Thank you. Phil? You don't have the video? Okay, so let me check my email. Momentarily, I know it was sent to us. Well, I have the plow day. Who was it sent to?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, all right. All right, so we will move on. We don't have it. Phil doesn't have it. So when Mrs. Russell feels better, we will get it sent out to you all. So wish you could see the
Is it
special.
on, was it on the Facebook page? I swear I saw the marching band or something on displayed.
Advertised, I know at least on the Buchanan band.
Yes, I think I saw that, yep.
There were several parents that posted pictures. I know
You did.
Yes, you did. I was collecting money personally, so I ended up on the side, sneaking by some of the administrators in the building. It was quite warm in there, so I didn't get great pictures, but
Gotcha.
yes, there were some.
Yep.
I know she put together a whole
Video.
video for you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Brackett, for doing that as well. So our next presentation is perceptions, school perceptions, along with PSI Group 2. So we know that we sent out a survey here back in April. I did speak about it earlier. We was able to get some feedback regarding that, and I think the presenter, Rob, is waiting to be let in, and I did not. Yeah, I didn't get a notification that he is, but he said he is waiting. So Rob, if you are seeing us and hearing us, give us a second. And Phil does have, am I correct, Phil, in saying that you have that presentation? Am I not correct? Michelle is saying it was sent to the presenter. And both the band and the school perceptions. And if you find them both, we could show the band.
While you're getting him in.
I just got a message from Mrs. Russell, she's homesick tonight, as you know.
Yes.
She said she just forwarded.
Rob's in, Michelle.
To Mr. Blaze.
She forwarded it to Mr. Place,
On his email, regular email.
his regular email? Okay. Mr. Place, did you hear that? Thank you.
Just forwarded to Mr. Blaze's regular email.
Yeah, that's the video. Okay, so he's gonna try to play the video, can't guarantee there's gonna be sound.
Rob's working on something already.
Hold on a second, Rob. I think he said, aha, I found it. Okay. Oh, we do have a backup fill. Yeah, we could also play it on the 31st. Okay, all right, thanks for that idea. All right, that's what we'll do. We'll play it on the 31st. Good try. We tried. All right, so we can move to the,
Can you play it off of your computer with the sound come? Yes, Phil, maybe. Do you want me to ask her? Yeah, you move forward to Rob and then.
yep. Phil, we can go ahead and move forward to Rob's school perceptions presentation.
He was pulling it up.
He was pulling it up. Rob, do you want to go ahead and do it? Yep, go ahead.
He's trying to talk, but we're not hearing him.
Yeah, we can't hear him, Phil.
And Rob, if you were talking, we can't. Can you try talking, Rob?
He's fixing something.
Okay. Oh, better, yes.
Okay, great. And just up on the screen, can you hear me, or can you see the screen with your name on it?
Yep.
Okay, all right, let's get started. So I haven't had an opportunity to meet you yet, so I did want to introduce myself, introduce who we are. I'm also hearing three of me.
Rob, if you can hold on just a second, we're having.
Sure.
It's technical difficulties. It was really loud, so we're gonna try to get that adjusted.
Harvey's humming.
Harvey's singing.
Intermission music.
Right.
I'm in it in there.
I thought I heard music.
I was humming until we get it going.
Well done. I was like, where's that coming
Thank you, everybody, for being patient with us.
angelic heavenly voice coming from?
See, this
I was like, where's
technology.
that angelic
We see it.
heavenly voice
Yes,
coming
we want you to see it.
It's not mine.
He's working on that, but I texted him, Trish, plays the video, get the sound, then go through your computer. He would need to send it to you. I don't, yeah, because it's like showing on his Baxter screen, so that usually is up there and it's not up there right now. Heard all right. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Rob.
Yeah,
So,
any better?
Can you turn your volume down a little bit? Okay, maybe that'll work. I don't know. Because you can get started, and I know our tech guy, Phil, is working on trying to get the presentation displayed so everybody in the audience can see as well.
Okay. Well, let me know if I need to talk down a little bit. So let me introduce myself.
Oh, we have it.
Okay, we have it. It's up. Yay.
Yay.
So I know we haven't had an opportunity to meet yet. My name is Ron Dean. I serve as a research director at School Receptions. I was a high school social studies teacher prior to joining School Receptions, and then I went to the University of Wisconsin and received my PhD from Wisconsin, where I studied what I call political behavior in school referendum, or in other words, in a nutshell, I spent a lot of time studying about why people vote yes for a referendum, why they vote no, why they change their mind, or why they don't. So I found a pretty natural role in school receptions. But one half of our business and then the other half is a great deal of staff, parents, and student surveys that are really gearing up towards the end of the year here as well. So we have two sides of our role that I have a hand in. Our mission in the 20 years that we've now been in business has been to help educational leaders gather, organize, and use data to make strategic decisions. That mission has never changed. Through more than the 850 districts that we are helping navigate this is here doing tonight, which is the strategic planning and referendum planning processes. In these 20 years, we've conducted over 10,000 staff, parents, student, and community surveys, all in the name of school improvement. So, in summary, not our first rodeo. Tonight, I want to go through your background.
also take the survey and return it directly to us. So we remove you from that process. We didn't want you to that process in the name of confidentiality. Or people can take the survey online for the one-time use code, emphasis on one-time use. As soon as that person is finished, that code went away. It was not recyclable. So that no voices were louder than another. What does that mean to you? Well, as you know, it was an April and May survey window for 584 total respondents, which is approximately a 10% participation rate, with a margin of error rate around 4%. What were the ages of the people that took your survey? Well, I won't be a research director, but I did some research on the Census Bureau website while looking at your data. So what I wanted to do here was compare the people who took your survey versus the people who live in your community. There is a little bit of tool on the census website. They actually do data every year, not just the 10-year decennial census that we're all used to. So I can break down age groups by your entire district and look at how they compare to who took your survey. So 18 to 24-year-olds, 1% of your survey takers, and they comprise about 7% of your community. That is always the case. I get pretty excited when I get to type a 2 there. It doesn't happen. It's always 1%, which is not a resounding endorsement of 18 to 24-year-olds, but that is what it is. It's all the same for the water participation rate as well. So that is not shocking to me. Your 25 to 34-year-olds was almost spot on. 10% of your survey takers were in that bucket, and 10.2% of your community is there. Your 35 to 54, so the middle two bars that extend out a little bit, is longer on your survey and is longer on every survey. Those groups are almost always overrepresented because those groups comprise your most active school people. So they'll be parents. They are obviously very motivated to take a school-related survey. And we're capturing a lot of people in prime working age, so a lot of your staff will be in those two middle bars as well. Your 55 to 64, again, was almost spot on. 14% of your survey takers and 14.4% of your community. And then finally, on top, your 65 plus, you are overrepresented in our survey, which is something that actually makes me pretty excited. That's good news for us. Why? Because there's a flip side of 18 to 24-year-olds. They will be there, they will be voting, they are mostly loyal voters, they have perfect election attendance. So I absolutely want to know what they think. And unlike some of these middle bars, they're probably more likely to be a little bit more disconnected because their kids may have come and gone, or they retired in the area, they're on fixed income, so we absolutely want to know what they think. And we do, so that's good. I like when that bar is a little longer than what I see in your general community. A 90-10 breakdown in terms of primary residence, whether it's in the district or not. One question that I always hear is, why do you send it to people who don't live here? Which is a perfectly valid question. And there are 3 legs to that stool. Number 1 being staff. They could very well live elsewhere. They don't need to live within the district boundaries, but they have access to the survey because they have an email address on file. Parents who open enroll into the district by definition do not live there, but they have an email address on file. And if I have a second home to the district and I have a mailbox, I'm going to get the survey. But the reason we have this slide up is because in quite a few of the desegregations moving forward, we are going to peel off the 10%, not because they're not important, they're influential, but they can't vote. So we need to focus on the people that will control an election within your boundaries, so we're going to focus on the 90% and skim off the 10%. In which municipalities you live, you were almost 2/3 represented by the city of Buchanan and township of Buchanan, and then 15% at Bertrand, 10% in Niles, and then 1% east of Visa. Ooh, I struggle with this a little bit. Around Orinoco, and then Moline. In terms of your file respondent information, are you an employee of the district? A little under 1/4 said yes to that question. And you had 50-50 split in terms of parents. Now, one thing I will say here is that I want to see that staff and parents are taking the survey. Because if they're not even taking the school-related survey, and they don't have feedback to offer, nobody's going to have feedback to offer. Because they are the most connected. But at the same time, I don't want them to be only taking the survey. I want to hear from groups that are non-parents, non-staff as well, and that's exactly what I see. I am hearing from people who are not parents, and the overwhelming majority of people are not employees. In terms of school-age children, so this does not have to go 100% because I can have more than one kid, and I can have more than one kid enrolled at various schools here. This didn't shock me at all because they roll up through time. So obviously everybody has to go to the middle of high school, and then your elementary schools are split. So 46% of parents had a kid in the high school, 42 in the middle school, 35 and 29% requested at Munson and Ottawa Elementary. Then we have the preference policy. So does not say. It does not say, how do you receive school information? Rather, it's really saying, how do you want to? What's the best way for us to communicate with you so that it catches your eye? In terms of non-parents, non-staff, which is how this is ordered in descending order, about 8% of your non-parents, non-staff represented by the purple bar want their information from the newsletters, and to a lesser extent, at 35% school and district websites. Your parents are a little more flexible. They want to receive information through email, but they also look at websites and newsletters, and then parents also want to receive phone notifications. I tell everybody here that, as you do communications for whatever you decide to do moving forward, you're going to do all these anyhow. You're probably going to need these notes on unheard, but at the end of the day, it is really nice to know how many eyeballs are going where and where we're getting more bang for our buck. Then we go into exact copy paste of your survey. This report is a one-stop shop for you, so that you can go back and see exactly how we wrote things, how things look, what we said, what we didn't say. When we post it on the website, even if I don't not take the survey, I can still see it, we make it transparency. So some of these slides I will go through a little more quickly because they're absolutely no different than what was in the survey that you received in the mail. So we talked a little bit about your tax rates over the last decade or so. We talked a little bit about the process we got to in terms of analyzing your needs at your schools. And then specifically focused at Montana and talk a little bit about some of the problems here, everything from ADA regulations to neighbor building systems, to user group, the library, and so on. And said, well, you've heard a lot of concerns, now it's time for community feedback, and you will with down two main options, which is, as you remember, renovating Montana, that was option one. We had a nice addition to that. Or build a new, that was option two, and we had a nice addition to that. Again, nothing new that was not in your survey, those are all exact represents. They do, no matter what, in order to support one of the options, you would reconfigure grade level as shown here. This is the question, which elementary school would you support? Now, these are the options that are the exact same on the survey, and you'll notice in the middle here that there's kind of a large contingent of people that said I would support either option. So in the name of better data readability, I chose to take this middle bar and add it to option one and option two. Or in other words, what I did is I took this 47% right here, and I added it to 15. So on the next slide, you'll see 62. Same thing for option two. So I added 47 and 21 to get to 68. So I'm going to take out those middle sections because they're the flexible people here. And what does that get me? Well, your staff are pretty supportive of either option. 62% said option one, 68% said option two. When you take into account the people that would support either. So what the journal tells me is we need something. They have the application to do something at Montana. Now, as we move on to these bar charts, I want you to bear in mind why we do this the way that we do. So you're going to see a lot of disaggregation for staff, for parents, and for non-parents, non-staff. I say as a former teacher, staff are very important. They're very influential. We have to know what staff are thinking, but we peel them off because there's just not that many of them in your community. In any given community, there's about one, sometimes maybe 2% of the community is staff, but typically about 1% of any given community works at the school. Parents, also, we want to know what they think, because they're very connected to school-based projects, but they're around a quarter of any given community. Therefore, when you see purple on a slide, put your eyes there first. Because those purple bars that you see comprise about 75% of any given community, including your own. So the largest bulk of your population, you're going to see in purple. So what are these other groups telling you? Your parents have a slight favorability towards option one, and your non-parents, non-staff, for purpose of repeat myself here, most of the people in your community in the purple are leaning towards option one as opposed to option two. So what I'm taking away from this slide is, all in all, I'm seeing a preference for option one over option two, which is the renovation over the new school. If you roll off at 25% for I would not support either option, that is not at all surprising to me. That is very common in every district we work with. Typically between 20 and 30% of the given public is going to say, I don't want you to do anything else. And that's very common. You're right smack down in the middle, 25%, right over here on the right-hand side, so that's really no surprise to me. Then we went into the high school run. So in addition to the elementary school, you had some things that you could do in the high school, and the total cost was $55 million. You knew those would be too expensive, so you whittled those projects down to about $14.7 million. We talked about what they would be, and then asked the question, is the same 3 age groups represented? The question read, would you support an investment of up to 26.5 because we didn't know yet what would be preferred, renovation or new school, and 14.7 million at the high school. For that together, 60% staff said yes. 65% of parents said yes. And then we dropped below the majority threshold, non-parents, non-staff, 42% said yes, and 47% said no. Now, a couple of thoughts here. What you should get out of this slide is that there is some hesitation for that much work. So my quick math tells me what, that's $41.2 million. People are leery of $41.2 million, and you'll see that corroborated in some of the slides that I have coming up. So I'm going to revisit this idea in just a few minutes. The other thing to take away from this slide is, what about these people in the middle, undecided? The great thing about living in the Midwest and the terrible thing about living in the Midwest is that people are too nice. And I say that as a diehard Wisconsin Midwesterner. But people know, some people know that when they go into the voting booth, they're going to tell you no. They already know it. But it feels mean and it feels rude and it feels like something they shouldn't tell the school. So they choose undecided, even though they absolutely know they're going to tell you no. But what we've learned in 20 years now is that approximately 2/3 of people who classify themselves as undecided will ultimately break toward no. Approximately 1/3 will break toward yes. So if I do my math there and I just round to 4, that tells me that about 46% of the largest bulk of your community is not going to support $41.2 million worth of work. And I show that in this slide here. So different way to present the exact same data. Here, I'm weighting support based on how I see people represented in the community. So 75% of non-parents, non-staff at 42%, plus 1/4 of your parents at 65%, brings me to just under 48% for this particular question. If I include the tippy top and all 1/3 of those undecideds come over, then you're just over 50%, but you are still in the margin of error. So again, you'll see this later on. I'm not seeing an appetite for that much money in Buchanan community schools. So the natural question is, well, what do we do then? If it's not 41.2, then what is it? And that's an excellent question, and that's where we go next. So your survey did ask about some additional projects at the high school, and there were several of them. So there was the gym at the middle school, infrastructure and accessibility, the locker rooms, the auditorium, the athletics at the middle and high school, and we noted the cost for each. And we asked people to give them a priority. So if I said that something was a high priority project for me, it was given a score of 3 in the background. If I said something was low priority, it gave me a score of 1, which means right smack dab in the middle here is 2. So can't get higher than 3, can't get lower than 1. What did I see? So for infrastructure and accessibility at the high school, that was the overwhelmingly highest priority project. That had a score of 2.42, well below medium. Now you're approaching some of that high priority. It's not too often that I see scores in the 2.3, 2.4, 2.5. So I'm seeing a big appetite for doing infrastructure and accessibility work at the high school. It tests well here, it tests well everywhere. These are things that are very relatable to people. People understand that you have to make buildings accessible, and at the same time, they know that their roofs don't last forever, their furnaces don't last forever, their windows don't last forever. People understand that work, and they understand that that's something that you need to do as well in an even bigger building. So, and even if you just kind of squint your eyes a little bit, you can tell just by the bars that infrastructure and accessibility, there's 60% of people that are saying that's high priority. I'm going to come back to my maroon line. I'll show you why I put that there in just a second. But you are going to see a step down then. There are 2 that still are right around the medium priority range, which is locker rooms and athletics. And then finally, towards the bottom of your priorities, auditorium, right around the medium range at 2.03, and then the middle school gym at 1.75. So note that your middle school gym is the only one that went below that middle zone. It went below 2 and started to get into the 1s. Then we asked the all-important funding support question. So at the end of the day, here's a review of the projects, but in order for you to make your decision, you need to understand both how much this is going to cost total and how much is it going to cost me as a taxpayer in Buchanan Community Schools. So we noted for people, how much is this going to cost you? How much money is going to come out of your wallet at various amounts if we decide to move forward with a bond? This led to this data here. So same question, how much of a school tax increase would you support through a referendum, assuming the projects included were acceptable to you? So we have our same groups, non-parents, non-staff, parents, and then staff. So I want to draw your attention to the top horizontal bar here. The way that you read this is essentially by saying, how cheap do you need to go before you cross 50%? That's what this slide reads in a nutshell. So in other words, 27% of the largest bulk of your community, non-parents, non-staff, would support a $47.9 million referendum. Or, put simply, a referendum, a bond for that much money is going to get crushed. So that there is no appetite for that much money in Buchanan community schools. So then what I do is I move downward. So if I add 27 and 11, I get to 38. Still below 50% at 42 million. Then I get to 46 if I add in another 8%. And then I add in another 5%. So you're right here on the bubble at about 51% with a dollar amount right around 34 million. Now, 51% of your non-parents, non-staff, that's your largest group. You're close, you're on the bubble, but remember there are parents and staff down here as well. And parents are very supportive at that dollar amount, and they're about 1/4 of your community. So what I'm taking away from this slide right here is that your sweet spot is right around $34 million or so. That's where your community, that's where the majority of your community starts to get on board with the cost and with the tax impacts. So then we need to back up here. So now we need to cross those lines, so to speak, and we need to say, well, if $34 million approximately is what the community is willing to tolerate, then what amount of work are we able to get done for that pot of money? Now, the good news here is that your projects match up to how people prioritize them. And that's not always the case. Sometimes people, what they're willing to fork over in terms of tax dollars doesn't match up with their highest priority item. And that's a sticky situation because that takes guesswork. Here, that's not the case. So what I heard earlier on in the survey is that the preferred option was a renovation at Moxon Elementary. That was a cost of 15.5 million. So cumulatively then, that's our only item so far, we're at 15.5. Your high school project's at 14.7. If we add those in, we're at 30.2 million. If I add in the highest priority item here for infrastructure and accessibility at the high school, I added 1.5 million. Now I'm up to $31.7 million. This is kind of where I'm seeing the sweet spot then. Now, one of the reasons why I didn't bump all the way up to 34 million is because I don't know that anybody in this virtual room has an idea on what construction costs are going to do, because they went up 50% since you started your meeting, probably. Like, they're ridiculous, you know? So I think, and what I mentioned this to Trish last week, I'm leaning towards being a little bit conservative here, because in essence, I mean, the cheaper you go, the more support you're going to get. I mean, that's true in Buchanan, that's true in every community. The cheaper you get, the more support you're going to get. So I'm looking at something that, you know, I don't want to go above 34. So what am I getting done that's highly prioritized? You know, could you do the locker rooms? Yeah, that gets you to 32.7. I don't want to take that one off the table, but now I'm getting into some value judgments and decisions that are excellent conversations for the board to decide what is it that you want to tackle, or how much of a cushion do you want to give yourself in terms of bumping right up to 34 and right around in that range, or do you want to keep it a little bit below? The one thing that I would highly caution against, well, two things, I guess. One, yes, it's not that much money, you know, million here, million there, pretty soon it's real money, but in other words, you know, the bottom four projects aren't a great deal. It's a difference of what? For $5.2 million. But that's night and day in terms of what I saw. So what I'd recommend is don't tackle it all, even though there may be people in your community that are supportive of that. That's at 36.9 million. That is not supported. I don't predict that would pass in Buchanan community schools. So I know there'll be an urge to just do it all, but I wouldn't recommend that. The other thing that I would recommend is, as you move forward, if you do experience an increase in construction costs, think in terms of money, not in terms of projects. So 4 months down the road, if you do see an inflation in costs, keep $34 million or so in the back of your mind, and then reconfigure what it is that you can do for that pot of money. So if costs go through the roof and all of a sudden you're only left with the first 2 rows, then that's what you're able to do. Now, the reason I bring that up is because we were working with some districts this past fall. We were surveying in their communities in November of 2021 in preparation for a referendum in April. And what they did is they said, well, you know, our community is supporting X, Y, and Z projects. So if we're going to do that, then let's increase the cost to make sure we get those things done. And that can't be the way it works. Your ceiling on your cost is your ceiling on your cost, And that's whatever you want to get done has to be below that. So don't think in terms of projects, think in terms of dollar amount. I'm happy to return to that slide, but last but not least, we had your overall satisfaction that we asked in all of our surveys, so that you can see how you stack up against other districts that look like Buchanan on 4 or 5 rather major metrics. So this is a scale here of 1 to 4. Can't be better than 4 at great. Can't be worse than 1 at poor. So what did we see? Just in terms of a reminder of percentile, if you're at the 50th percentile, you are right smack dab in the middle of the data set. It means half of the data set is doing better than you, half of the data set is doing worse than you. In an ideal world, you'd be at the 99% for everything, because that would mean that you're doing better than every other district in your comparison pool. So in other words, the higher the number, the better off you are in terms of percentile. A couple notes about this slide then. In terms of building pride in the community, on that particular metric, you're doing better than 81% of other districts in your comparison pool. So that's excellent news. It's hard to get people excited about something if they're not proud of what you're doing, period. So it's excellent that you're seeing good numbers on that metric. In terms of 2 that are a little closer to the median, and just right below is keeping the public informed and delivering a high quality education. My guess, and we see this all the time, is that if you did another survey tomorrow, you're keeping the public informed would be higher than it is right now. Because just by nature of doing a survey, people feel better communicated with. And when they see that you are following the directions that they gave you through a survey, they're going to feel like their opinions are being honored, and that score will go up. So we often see a slight increase in the second row if you decide to do another survey with us in the future. Finally, then at the bottom, 37th percentile was managing funds appropriately. Now, the last thing I'll say about this slide as a train goes through my neighborhood is you have to look at each column. And you can't really say one column is going to be more important than the other. Give me a sec. All right. Hopefully they're good. And I tell this story every time. I mention this to Trish. At the end of my grad school career, I took an exam. It was computerized. Got a 94% on it. I was thrilled, chest puffed, walking out, strutting out, aced it, okay? 2 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail that said almost everybody else on that day scored a 98%. What do I do with that? Well, I was happy, I got a 94%. I sailed through, but I felt a lot less good than I did before when I realized that people were doing better than me. Same thing here. Look at your third row, delivering a high quality education. 81% of your community is saying you're doing a great or good job there. Some people just aren't going to know, so they're going to choose fair. They don't want to say I don't know. They feel like they should have an opinion, so they check something that's going to be in the middle. Some people are going to be mad at you because the sun rises tomorrow, so they're going to say they're mad at you for that, and it's going to bring down your score. I don't know that. I don't know how much higher you're going to get above 81%. So some things ring alarm bells for me. That doesn't. I mean, the fact that if I didn't have a percentile column there, you'd probably be pretty pleased with 81% that are saying you're delivering a high quality education, and I think you should be. So what we see is a really tight clustering of data. I bet if you went up just a couple percentage points, your percentile would soar as well. So in a nutshell, take all the columns together. Don't just focus on one aspect, or you're going to lead yourself down an incorrect rabbit hole. Lastly then is what I call the when push comes to shove question. And it read, on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely would you be to recommend the district to a friend or family member? Or at the end of the day, sure, as a taxpayer, as a community member in Buchanan, there are some things that I'm going to love, there are some things that I'm going to hate, but when push comes to shove, at the end of the day, how satisfied am I with you? You were at your average was 7.55, which means you're doing better than about 3/4 of other districts on that metric. That's excellent news. And one thing I told Trish is that this is even though it's at the end of our presentation, in reality, it's kind of your first hurdle, because nobody feels dissatisfied with their district and then willingly pays more in taxes. That's not the way it goes. It's a very, very tight correlation, and you're in the direction I want to be. You have a lot more greens and yellows than you do the scary maroons and reds down here at the bottom. And the other thing that I do, just kind of for my own interest, is first, you got a third of people that are giving you the highest score you can get. Then I just do some simple math. So 33 plus 12 is 45. If I add in 16%, I'm well over majority. In fact, I'm approaching 2/3 of people, or 2/3 of survey respondents, and I only got down to 8. So that's good news. I'm doing these presentations sometimes, and sometimes I don't cross majority until I get to 4 or 3, and there's a lot of attack to messenger, and that's not a fun end to my Monday night. I don't have to do that with you. All I have to do is go down to 8, and that's great. So here I already went through this slide, but I'll put it back up because I assume there'll be some questions about this. So same data as before. This is your project summary. So I'd like to leave some time for questions or concerns for me or for school perceptions in general. How can I help?
Thank you, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage of the voters?
Turn yours off. That's all right.
What percentage of the voters did you say were parents? Like
about 25% of any given community are parents.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
25% or so of any
25.
given community are parents. Yep.
Rob, we may have some questions that may have you repeat a few things that it just may have been difficult to fully understand or make out every word. So can you repeat? I don't see the particular graph. We have to go back, but you were talking about the way that you inference how to predict the undecided vote. I think there was a 2/3 and a 1/3 split involved, but again, I couldn't make out every word that you said. Can you talk about that again?
Yep, absolutely.
Does that ring a bell, what I'm saying?
Yep, I know exactly what you're saying.
Okay.
So take this slide. This happens to be non-parents, non-staff, and I backed up to the question of your investment at the elementary school and your investment at the high school. So 42% of non-parents, non-staff, or in other words, that group that's about 75% of your community, 42% said yes to that project out of the gate. 47% said no to that project right out of the gate. And you're undecided here, so this bar in the middle, so at 11%, so I'm just doing a little rounding here, figure 2/3 of 11, so round to about 8, are going to drop down to the bottom towards no. So just looking at this question, if this is what you were to take to ballot, I would expect about 55% of your non-parents, non-staff to say no to this. If I round to about 1/3, that's about 4% or so right here. Then I'm going to add that right here to 46%, which is how I got here. So when I add in those 1/3, 46% of that group that represents 75% of your community, and 71% of parents, when I take into account the undecideds, at 25% of your community, gets me to the tippy top of 52.3%, or in other words, within the margin of error, for this particular question as it was worded here. Does that help?
Yeah, and you're using those predictive fractions based on all of the bond surveys that you personally have done in the past, that your company's done in the past, or is it a broader sample than that?
No, it's what we have done in the past, and then we'll look at. In fact, we'll partner oftentimes with construction managers or construction companies or architects, and they'll do their own voter registration studies and figure out who's showing up, who's the bulk of the community, and so we work with them sometimes just to have them double check our data. And so we're pretty confident now over the 10,000 that we've done that's a pretty safe breakdown of what you'll see in your community as well.
And is that going to be is the 1/3, 2/3 breakdown, is that going to be for any undecided category in any of these questions, or just this specific metric?
Yeah, that's correct. So I had the non-parents, non-staff up arbitrarily, but you could do that to any of these. So taking about 6% to yes here.
So even in the 17% undecided, whether it's the 11% slide, the 17%, you can do 1/3, 2/3?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you bet.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
Okay, we don't have any other questions, Rob. Michael, your team, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we like the knowledge that Rob provides, and I think that the projects that he was suggesting were good. It gives us some margin of error, but it's today, unfortunately, a pretty unpredictable market.
Is the 584 responses, is that now a finite closed-ended number, or are we still receiving additional survey information?
The survey online is closed, so we're not adding any other things to this. So that'll be the information that we take. You guys have it. And then our next steps then would be hoping to have a workshop planned between now and the 31st. And then on the 31st will be the meeting where the board will decide what is the amount and what are the projects.
And so from the performance services side, we'll update all the pricing based on what's going on right now. The good news is pricing is starting to settle a bit, but obviously we still have with plastics and petroleum-based products.
Michael, can I get that in writing?
Rob, I do just have one more question, sorry. What's the, and maybe you said this, and again, I just didn't hear very well, but what was the percentage, like our sampling percentage compared to what you normally get in responses for communities, I guess all communities or communities of our size, or?
Yeah, really good question. So your specific metric was 10%. And I think I have a different reaction to that now than I did maybe 6 months ago. We have seen every district, no matter if it's Wisconsin, Michigan, or where they are in the country, have seen a slight decline in their participation rates over the last 8 months or so. And I don't know if people are sick of thinking about school or it's become really politicized. I don't know what the answer to that is. And so in January, I was a little bit worried about that. And then April rolled around and it really didn't harm our prediction at all. We're still getting a really good pool of the people who are taking your survey. If you think about that Venn diagram, that middle chunk of people, the people that are willing to take a survey are also the people that show up and vote. So you're seeing a lot of the same pool. And so we were still right around 95% accuracy in this past April, which is where we've been over the last 4 or 5 years now. The other thing that I'll say is our data tends to quiet down a lot after about 300-400 responses or so, and you're pushing 600. In the first 100, so people are pretty motivated. You're getting a lot of staff and parents, and then after that, the data really quiets down and it doesn't jump. I bet you could probably collect another 100 surveys, and it would be the exact same as you see here, plus or minus a couple of hundredths of a percentage point, something like that. So 10% is what we had, and that's really not. I don't have a concern about it. In fact, I think it's probably part of the new normal, and the new normal doesn't seem to be hurting our prediction at all.
What would be a high percentage for you guys in the past?
Ooh, when I get to type a 2 in front, I get pretty excited. We had a couple over COVID that were up to 33, 34%. I think people were kind of bored and didn't know what to do with themselves and entertained it with some surveys that we wrote. So that was, if there's only one sparkly, shiny bit that was out of the COVID, that was it. Otherwise, I would say now, if we're really looking good, maybe about 22, 23% or so. But what you're at, low teens, has kind of become a new norm over the calendar year of 2022.
Do you believe in your experience that this 10% is as predictive as the ones you've done in the past where you've gotten 20 to 30%?
I do, and the reason I say that is because what we found in kind of our own anecdotal research is that the people that are willing to take the survey are what you call, and I can't remember the name of the researcher, and it's a good thing my boss isn't here. He'd have it with me. But there's a group of people called the influentials, and they are the influentials in your community and everywhere, and about 1 in 7 to 1 in 8 people are influentials. They're the people that are pacing up and down the side of the football field in the fall. They're the people that are still in the vestibule of the school in the mornings talking about what's going on. They're the people that are involved in the PTA, and they have a lot of clout, and they usually take several people along with them, no matter what side they're thinking. Whether they're yes or no, they're influential no matter what side they're on. And those people like to be heard, they want to be heard, and oftentimes those are the people that we see taking the 10, 15, 20% of the survey pool. And we've cross-checked that, and superintendents and board members know exactly who all those people are, and those are the ones that are willing to take a survey. So all in all, I don't feel any less confident on your data than I do when it was 25, 30%. Again, I would have been maybe more nervous about that in January, but after having been through the elections, especially in Wisconsin and the Midwest in April, I feel a little bit more validated and comfortable.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, I have a question for you. So being that we just recently found out this week that some of the surveys were not delivered to the Glean district, is there something now that the survey's gone and this is a third-party survey, is there anything that you guys are gonna do to correct that? I know what we did to try to help when we found out, but to make it a legitimate, you know, survey for that area, is there anything we can do to help that?
I would defer to Rob on that. Rob?
Is he aware? Sorry, you were in the meeting when we talked about it at the beginning, but
Oh,
Rob
yeah,
might not
sorry,
have.
Yeah, sorry, I thought that was for Michael. Answer is yes.
Okay.
We can. And so what I did, just out of curiosity when we were talking last week, is I looked at, sorry, is it Glean? Is that how you pronounce it? Okay.
Yes.
I looked at their data, and then I looked at all respondents, or rather all the rest of your residents, and it is almost an exact mirror. Like, you could put the bar graphs next to each other, and I kind of played around with that a little bit. And by the way, Trish has access to this data as well. So what I'm showing you won't change. But like in terms of non-parents, non-staff for support to this question, it was almost identical. For the majority threshold here in terms of what dollar amount people would support, it was almost the exact same in Glean. And I was pretty pleased with that because it made my life a little bit easier, but there wasn't a metric where that specific municipality was any different than the whole pool of data.
So, sorry. So just making sure I'm clear on this, we try to correct it on the levels. You went off of the non-residents, you said, or your non-part petition or whatever, and you said that it matches up to the Glean information. But my question is that our survey's gonna be either, are we gonna reach out to them, or you're saying that you have the data that matches? I guess I'm a little confused on that.
So I think I'm confused by what you mean by reaching out.
We were told that the whole Glean district did not receive ballots, or did not receive surveys, excuse me.
So, and I mentioned this last week when I talked to Trish, and I feel bad because the printer's not here to defend themselves, but they are the ones that create a boundary map of your district's boundaries.
Okay.
And they are the ones that then make a route list, and then they'll give that to the post office to say, deliver these surveys, you know, route number 1 gets this chunk, route number 2 gets this chunk. We don't know a lot about that process other than, because we don't know, you know, we don't know what address, it comes back in an Excel file sometimes of 10, 20,000 rows, and we have no idea who's on what route or anything. So we are at the mercy of how good that boundary map is, and whether it captures it or not. And so I can speak to the data that comes back. I can't much speak to the quality of the boundary map that they pull because I truly don't know, and that really isn't part of our world.
Okay.
I guess going along with that, 1% of the responses were from Glean. What percent of our district is Glean?
Right.
Do we know that?
It was over just 100.
Yeah, I only know, I think from the last time when we did the boundary for when we split, it was like under 100 residents or people, and I think it was under 80.
Probably close to 1%.
Yeah.
Chris, didn't you have that
Yeah.
information at our earlier meeting?
Yeah, and we may not want to put that out, we got to comb through that data.
Oh, okay.
Because it
Thank
is
you.
just registered, I mean, we have to comb through it. I don't want to misspeak about what that is.
And I think I'm just saying for, obviously myself, but just hearing about it actually today. So I just want to make sure that we're doing everything possible to make sure we correct the error that is out there if there is one. And again, the boundaries and all that, I just want to make sure that we are not doing something to correct that error, so. And if we have to look further into it, I'm sure we all will, because I feel like I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing.
And Rob, the other thing is, I don't know, if people were to come, because we did this, once again, anybody who called, we asked them to come and pick up a survey. We also gave them a code. We also, we called them too. If there were concerns, we did return calls. We returned emails. So, and my question, Rob and Mike, so if people want to, that were missed, complete a survey, a hard copy survey, which we have plenty of, what could be done with that information? Or if anything at all?
Yeah, so we can certainly put it in. I guess I would say that then if I were living in the city of Buchanan, I may also want to do that if I didn't take the survey. So I'm not sure you'd want to nitpick in terms of one municipality. I certainly see what you're saying. You want to give them equal opportunity as somebody else did. If we're not going to throw a survey away. If they mail a survey back, we will dutifully enter it. I don't expect the survey data to change all that much, especially with how they're represented population, but I get that it's a political argument and you don't want to remove a whole municipality from your work. But all that being said, if it comes, and in fact, I have a presentation tomorrow night, and we got a couple of surveys in the mail today, and I entered them, even though it changed the score by a couple hundredths of a percentage point. So all that's to say, we will not ignore it. We will enter it, and if things change for some reason, I would absolutely let you know.
And this is just one part of the process.
Right.
So it's just us collecting the data before we get to another part. So there'll be other opportunities too for input.
And Rob said another survey or whatever the motions are moving down the road. I just want to make sure that we stop and ask those questions now before we get too far ahead and can't do anything about it.
Yeah, when did they consolidate with you? Like 2014, 15, something like that?
When did we split? What did you say? I'm sorry.
What year did they join?
Oh, 15? Yeah, off the top of my head.
Yeah.
You wouldn't, nobody's
So
here anymore, because
I'm just wondering maybe if the printer
I think it's 15.
had a map that was older than that and just went off of it that way and didn't know that there was some sort of, especially if you don't live there and it's a small municipality, they may truly just not have known and were working off old data. If you do, and I wasn't involved in this part of the process with all the files being sent back and forth, but Trish may have already sent this, but if you have a boundary map in your office as well, I mean, the bus has got to know where to go. So somewhere you have a boundary map that lays out where things go, and you can always pass that along to the printer as well to say, hey, we have a better version that you should use instead, and then get that to them, because they can work off of something custom as well. We've given them pictures from a smartphone of a PDF that is printed and attached to a wall. They figure it out, they're good at it.
Gotcha. It was 2015, just so you know, when we annexed.
Any other questions?
Okay.
No? Okay. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
All right. Any additional information in new business?
Okay, so we have a plow day report update.
No, she did it.
Oh, okay, so
Yep,
that was
we're all
already
good.
done?
Yep.
Superintendent Buck Conversations, May 2nd. I did have a parent to attend at Moccasin Elementary. We pretty much talked about the survey. And then the student advisory at the high school, really, I'll say this kind of, it's been hit and miss here at the high school. So what I did this past one was just pull my kids in. So my kids were with me, and I pulled them in to review the survey results with my own two kids that were there. So that was pretty much it.
Okay, very good. Moving on to item J, public comments. And per our Buchanan Community Schools bylaw 0167.3, which governs public comment at board meetings, each participant may speak once during the meeting for up to 3 minutes. Participants shall direct all comments to the board and not to staff or other participants. And the board will listen, take comments and questions under advisement and not respond at this time. I, as president, will refer to questions to the superintendent for research and responses in a timely manner. And please ensure your public comment cards, including your contact information, as desired for a response, are there. And if you have any specific questions for the board that requires a follow-up, please email the board president directly. And with that said, we do have 2 cards, and we'll go with Gail Brinkley. And just come on up to the mic.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to speak. Obviously, I want to speak about something you've talked about all night, which is the referendum with Galeen residents. It came to our attention that you had assessed an amount of value that was above for our district. We found out both Superintendent Robinson and Brian Brown were very helpful in getting back to us and clearing up what has happened. So I thank you for that. I thank you for addressing it tonight somewhat. I do think, so you don't lose those voters on the whole, possibly once you have it all figured out, please send a letter to those residents in the district. I have lived in this district now forever. My daughter has a house next door to me, and her child is in this district. She received nothing. I somehow received a text. So my neighbors received nothing. The other parts of Galeen received nothing. You don't want to lose those voters. You really don't. I realize they're saying the percentage is low, but it could make a difference for you all. So please keep them in your consideration. I thank you for getting back to us immediately. I thank you for Brian clearing it up and Superintendent Robinson looking into the mail problem. Please continue to keep us updated, and I think it'll help a lot with communication with that part of the community. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gail. Sorry. And next, Carol McKean.
I have some papers. I won't go through.
Chris, you want to go?
I'll make my comment. I think you all know who I am. Some of you out here may not know, but I taught choral music here in Buchanan for 23 years, thereabouts. I don't know, 100 years, it seems like sometimes. First off, I want to congratulate the music department in general right now, and I think they're doing a great job. And it's too bad the video didn't work. And I'm sure Deanna will get that back to you. It was my pleasure to be invited to sing with the community, as a community person with the high school choir students. It's not a large group. It's not. But you got to build somewhere. And I really appreciate the fact that Mrs. Russell was willing to take that on. You may not know, but she is a singer as well. And she works with very constructively with Dave Carew, who is director of choirs over at SMC and who is my student teacher. So we have all that going on. I was told by Deanna, Mrs. Russell, that there will be no choir next year. There won't be a choir. There's not one scheduled in the high school schedule. That was really disappointing to me. It was really disappointing to me when our choir program went down the tubes after I retired. But there's a notable hole in the curriculum. You can't expect a high school student to come in and not have any choral experience through their life except maybe elementary music, which has been doing a great job. And then you got 4 or 5 years of empty in the middle school. And then you say, sign up for choir at the high school. Kids at that age will not do that because it's not socially acceptable. They just won't. Dr. Burnett's a singer. He understands that. We have to understand that the voice is an instrument too, and that it needs to be trained. And the most important time to train is during those years of puberty where the voice is changing, where we're learning our instrument. And I just feel I'm just here to ask you to please reconsider. And if you have to not do a high school choir, then I would ask you to strongly consider a middle school so that you can build. You've got the elementary program, you've got nothing at the middle school. No general music, no nothing. And kids will not sign up for high school choir. The reason Mrs. Russell said was there's not enough interest to warrant a choir. No, there won't be. There just won't be. But I just want to compliment her on the fact that she's done a fine job with very few numbers to work with. And I really ask you to reconsider, you may even have to hire a halftime teacher. Oh golly, that's what I did when I came in at first. And I know a halftime teacher isn't ideal, and maybe you could make that into a full-time position somehow between helping with the band and possibly accompanying, I don't know, you know, it's a possibility. But yes, I know you don't have enough personnel to do it all, but you're never going to have a program. And if I were a parent moving into this school system and I looked at that, I wouldn't send my kid here. And actually, I've talked to a couple people, and they don't. They send their child where the child can have choral music. So we want to do things. We're proud of Buchanan. Buchanan's a great town. I'm still a newcomer, and I've lived here 50 years. But we need to encourage that, and we need to enliven our fine arts. And I just, again, want to compliment Mrs. Russell for taking that job on this year. I would be very happy to talk with any of you. My email's on there, but y'all know how to get a hold of me. So if you'd like to discuss that in any way, or if you have questions about what I've written, please feel free to contact me. I would be very happy to be supportive. And I think that's a big hole in our curriculum we need to fill. Thank you for listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your written notes, too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, moving on.
I've got a couple people that got married because of that.
Yep, that is true.
That's true. All right. All right. Moving on to, thank you there, Carol. Moving on to item K, adoption of the consent agenda. May we have a motion, please?
Sorry, I'm getting there.
I'll make the motion that the Board of Education approves the consent agenda for the regular meeting of May 16th, and it includes the minutes from the 4/18 work session, the treasury and expenditure reports for April of 2022, retirement of Mrs. Lawmall, recommendations to hire Robert, I'm going to say it wrong, Kleka, and Lacey Chase, operations utility staff, and then Lacey Chase is the bus driver, and resignations of Brittany Geminer, early childhood special education teacher.
Support.
Real quick, Katie, at the beginning you said work session, and it's actually a regular meeting.
Thank you.
It's probably not crossed off on hers. Just making that
You okay
correction.
with that?
Thank you.
Minor
Yep.
amendment, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. All right. And roll call.
Ms. Lee, or Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Ms. Berry,
Yes.
Mr. Carlson,
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes, Dr. Carlin,
Yes.
Ms. Ryder,
Yes.
and Dr. Burnett.
Yes. Moving on to item L, recommended action other. We'll go to L1, Buchanan High School Graduation Certification. May we have a motion?
I motion that upon satisfactory completion of district requirements for high school graduation, Board of Education hereby approves the graduates as listed on the attached roster to be certified for graduation, and further authorizes the administration to prepare diplomas to be presented at the 2022 commencement ceremony.
Second.
All right. Anything else to add, Ms. Robinson?
Just congratulations, and we wish them all the best of luck. And this group has been challenged with getting through 2 years of education under the pandemic, so we are very, very proud of them.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Roll call.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Ms. Berry,
Yes.
Mr. Carlson,
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes, Dr. Carlin,
Yes.
Ms. Ryder,
Yes.
and Dr. Burnett.
Yes. Moving on to item L2, BBA Graduation Certification. May we have a motion, please?
Make a motion that upon satisfactory completion of district requirements for high school graduation, the Board of Education hereby approves the following Buchanan Virtual Academy students: Caitlin Larsch, Hannah Blumka, Jesus Gutierrez, Luz Marie Lira, Aaron Walters, Bryce Platcher, and Buchanan Step Up students Justin Glinka and Lizette Weisinger. I apologize if I...
Great job.
I apologize if I mispronounced any names.
And again, we like to congratulate our students, again, graduating from BVA. Right. Roll call.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett?
Yes. Moving on to item L3, Neola, second reading. May I have a motion?
I move the Buchanan Board of Education approves the second reading of the following Neola revised policies. Policy 01673, public comment at boards. Policy 2410, prohibition of referral or assistance. Policy 2414, reproductive health and family planning. Policy 2418, sex education. Policy 5511, dress and grooming. Policy 6110, grant funds. Policy 6114, cost principles, spending federal funds. Policy 6325, procurement, federal grants and funds. Policy 7440, facility security. Policy 8600, transportation. And finally, Policy 9190, shop project charge.
Support.
Very good, and we discussed this at last meeting, so we can go ahead and, with roll call.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett?
Yes. Moving on to item L4, BRISA General Fund Operation, or Operating Budget Resolution. May I have a motion?
I make a motion the Buchanan Board of Education approves the following resolution. Whereas this board received the Berrien RISA General Fund operating budget following the RISA board meeting of April 20th, 2022, and whereas in accordance with section 380.624 of the revised school code, this board must now adopt a resolution expressing its support or disapproval of the proposed Berrien RISA budget, and must submit to the Berrien RISA board any specific objections and proposed changes the board may have to the budget prior to June 1st, 2022. Therefore, be it resolved that the Berrien RISA General Fund operating budget for the 2022-2023 school year be supported, and that the Secretary of the Board is hereby directed to submit a copy of this resolution to the Secretary of the Berrien RISA Board of Education, along with any specific objections or proposed changes on the budget.
Support.
All right, Ms. Robinson.
This is just the annual resolution. You guys have seen the budget, so.
Okay.
pretty nice.
Any questions or comments? All right, roll call.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett?
Yes. Moving on to item L5, Auditor Services Recommendation.
Make a motion that the Buchanan Board of Education approves a change in auditing companies to Krugel Lawton and Company to conduct Buchanan Community Schools audits as recommended by the Finance Committee.
Support.
Okay. Ms. Robinson.
Yes, so we did bring this to the operations, or the finance committee. It was back in March, I believe. So we do need to bring this to the board for formal approval, and we're asking for your support.
Okay. All right, roll call.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett?
Yes. Moving on to item L6, donation approvals over $1,000.
I motion the Buchanan Board of Education approves the following donations. For the softball trust and agency batting cages, Kiewit Power, $6,000 in kind as well as monetary. Indec Energy, $6,000 in kind as well as monetary. Honor Credit Union, $3,000. For the high school centennial celebration and marquee sign, Michigan Gateway Community Foundation, $14,000.
Support.
Okay. Ms. Robinson.
And we have a number of projects going on. We have lots of support within the community. People are donating their services as well, and we just ask for you to support these different donations.
Great. And we're thankful for those donations that
Yes.
we have received here. So, Roll call.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Abstain due to my employment with honor.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett?
Yes. Moving on to item L7, L7, batting cage resolution.
I motion the Buchanan Board of Education approves the construction of new batting cages for Buchanan Community Schools. This project has been funded by donations received to the softball program.
Support.
Second. Oh, sorry.
Which one you got? Is a
It
support?
was Katie, right?
It was
Katie?
Yep.
You got it? Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes, and I just want to thank Coach Carlson for all of the work that she's done with securing donations, getting it organized. We know that we were playing with weather a couple of weeks ago, so the company just had to get some things in before this process took place. So that team as well worked really hard in selling some really good treats too. So this is coming all together. We're going to see the finished product soon, and I know it's going to look beautiful.
All right, roll call.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett?
Yes. Moving on to item L8, Lakeland Conference Handbook. May we have a motion?
I motion the Buchanan Board of Education approves the Lakeland Conference Handbook and bylaws for the Buchanan Community Schools Athletics Department.
Support.
All right, Ms. Robinson?
Yes, and you have a description of all of the things that took place. Our athletic director, Mr. Fry, is part of the team that created this, and we are part of a new conference, so everything is kind of falling in place too. We're getting things organized for this conference to start, so we ask for your support around that.
Okay. All right. Any questions, comments?
Seems like we go through this quite frequently, and so well done, Mr. Fry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett?
Yes. Moving on to item L9, proposed tree planting at Buchanan High School.
I make a motion, the Buchanan Board of Education approves 3 white pine tree donated by the Doherty family to be planted by Elm Valley Evergreens at Buchanan High School.
Support.
Ms. Robinson?
And we thank the Doherty family. We know they have a history here in Buchanan. The trees have been planted. They're out front. They're some mature trees already. So, and we had to also kind of organize with the company that could do it at that time. So, and this is to commemorate our centennial celebration here at the high school. So we appreciate and are thankful for the family, the Doherty family, to donate those alpine trees.
All right. Roll call.
Is there more than that? Just a second.
Nope.
Just 3. Okay. Yep. Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett?
Yes. Moving on to item L10, RFP Buchanan High School Water Softener. May we have a motion?
I motion the Buchanan Board of Education approves Director of Operations Alan Burgett recommendation to accept the bid from Andy J. Egan Company Incorporated for the Buchanan High School Water Softener Replacement Project.
Support.
And Ms. Robinson?
And this is one of the projects that were outlined in the facilities committee as a project to be funded through our sinking fund. So this will be a sinking fund supported project. So we ask for you to approve that.
Roll call.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett?
Yes. And moving on to item M, question or comments from board members?
I just have one real quick one, because it's getting past my bedtime. I wanted to congratulate Coach Joe Marazita. Coach Marazita unfortunately coaches at the school to our east that also wears maroon. But he is a Buchanan High School graduate, and this past month he hit 300 wins in his tennis career. And when I talked to Dr. Carlin about it this morning, or this afternoon, his first comment was, wow, it puts him in the top 8 on the state list, active, and well within the top 40 all-time of wins. And I watched a match over there earlier this year he's got years to go. And so it's great for a graduate to be in that realm of coaching wins. So congratulations, Coach, and maybe next time we have an opening, you'll come home.
Very cool.
I just want to make real quick comment regarding, as board members, we all experience our stakeholders approaching us in various locations, whether, on the front yard of our homes or in the supermarket or post office, whatever, with, comments and questions about the state of the school, et cetera. And, at least speaking for myself, I feel like I'm usually just a messenger in that comment or question to the people that really actually know what's going on, like Trish and her executive team. And some of them are here tonight, and the administrative team in this building. And I just want to give all of those people, oh, and Michelle, by extension of the superintendent office, I just want to give them their due. It seems like I'm getting more and more of those questions and comments, and the expediency of the response and the accuracy of the information is impressive, for a lack of a better adjective, I suppose. And it hits for the person that initiated the question or concern, because there's not much of a follow-up. And so to me, that means they're pleased with the timeliness of the response. They're accepting of the information as true and accurate, and they may not always agree, and they may not always be happy by the message, but it tends to, it's really helped our communication in the community, I think. So well done, everybody involved in that channel, I suppose.
Agree. Agree. Thank you for the fast responses.
We have the 100th anniversary of the building of this building. Our centennial activities will be on June 11th, so we'd like everyone to attend. Got lots of plans.
And then to wrap it up there, we did have a workshop on ageism this past weekend, and want to thank Ms. Robinson and Phil from the school being there, as well as Kelly answering questions related to that, as well as Mrs. Ryder. And also just a reminder that May 19th at 6 is going to be DARE graduation and things. So if you're ready, come on out and things. The board's going to sing for them this year. Is that me? All right, with that said, our next regular board meeting. Oh, everybody's sitting there like, oh, you didn't hear what I said, huh?
Send an invite.
Send an invite. All right. Our next board meeting will be on a Tuesday, May 31st, after Memorial Day, and we stand adjourned.